You've probably seen line charts that look like this, with kind of smooth or kind of curvy lines. My name is Nick Deborah. I'm an independent educator and author in the fields of data visualization and dashboard design. And in this short video, I'm going to ask the question, is this okay? Is this a bad idea, or is it something that you can maybe do in your own charts? The main concern that people who kind of object to curvy line charts like this is what I call the overshooting problem. So for example, in this chart, it looks like around the fall, we actually went above 100% of our transactions being successfully completed. That's not even theoretically possible. And yet the curve makes the line actually go above that theoretical maximum. Or in the spring, it looks like we actually hit about 60%, but we never actually got there. You can see from the point markers on the line that we were always above 60%. And so that's kind of, like I said, that's the objection that people have. There are a few other actually concerns that I've heard raised as well, which are things like people worry that the curves make it look like there are intermediate values in between the values in the chart, when in fact there aren't any, or that maybe it makes the data look like it came from some kind of continuous process, like the temperature of a lake or something like that, even if it didn't actually come from that kind of source. Those aren't as big concerns for me, though. I don't worry as much that people will interpret the data that way, but there are no real studies that I'm aware of anyways that kind of prove things one way or the other. Another concern with smooth lines is that the chart creator has to choose the degree of smoothing, right? To make the segments in between the points more curvy or more straight. And that's kind of a subjective decision, and it can actually change the way that people interpret the data in the chart. So kind of a natural question, right? Why would a chart creator decide to make a chart like this with these sort of smooth lines? Well, as far as I can tell, it's mostly for kind of aesthetic or cosmetic reasons. People just think it kind of looks nicer. And I mean, I guess you could sort of debate that, but that seems to be kind of the main reason. So what about you? Should you use curvy lines like this? Well, I think it kind of depends on the circumstances a little bit. For example, if you're creating a chart like this, which is really for entertainment purposes, or maybe if you're creating kind of data art or something like that, where really high precision is not a super high priority, then yeah, it's probably fine. And by the way, this is a very funny chart from a very funny site called Spurious Correlations. I'll put a link in the description below. You can check out. There's many other examples. If, however, your chart is going to be used for kind of more work-related or maybe technical, in technical situations, then, I'd probably stay away from them because as far as I can tell, there's no real benefit to them apart from perhaps, a cosmetic one. And there are some potential downsides, although I don't think the downsides are huge. Personally, I tend to stay away from them. And really, are these sort of smooth lines actually a lot more attractive? Even that is potentially subjective. Now, there are situations where I think smooth lines are perfectly fine. And in fact, even recommended, right? Like a situation like this, for example, where the line doesn't directly connect the points in a chart. And so you'll see this with things like trend lines or moving averages, things like that. And so the line actually doesn't connect to the points directly. In that case, smooth lines, I think, are absolutely fine. And a second situation where I think smooth lines are fine is in what's called a bumps chart. And so this is kind of a special kind of line chart that shows changes in rank as opposed to changes in quantity. And for various reasons, smooth lines are absolutely fine in a situation like this. When I published a blog post about this originally, there were people who commented that there are different smoothing algorithms out there, and that's absolutely true. These lines are using a smoothing algorithm called a monotone smoothing algorithm using different parameters. And while this algorithm does kind of eliminate the overshooting problem, it's also not maybe as aesthetically pleasing as some of the other algorithms that I've seen for smooth lines. So you can decide, I guess, if you think this is okay. So what does this all come down to? What are my key takeaways from this video? Well, I don't think smooth lines really distort the data as much as some people make it out to be. It'll probably be okay in most cases. And it's certainly fine, as we saw for artistic or entertainment charts, trend lines within charts, and bumps charts. Probably best to avoid in other charts though, because they do have some risks, even though they're not significant risks. And more complex smoothing algorithms may alleviate the overshooting problem, but they're also maybe not as visually appealing. And so I'm not sure that those kind of solve the issue either. So I hope you found this short video to be valuable. If you want more content like this, you can visit my website, which is just practicalreporting.com. Thanks for watching.